I'm Spencer.
I'm Lara, and we're married to board games. For those of you who listen to our podcast, you'll know we are big Sherlock Holmes fans. So any game with that character attached to it automatically catches our eye.
So something that doesn't usually catch our eye, though, is cats.
Yeah.
We're not cat haters, just dog people, more or less. But when we heard about a game that matches up those two things, we were, well, intrigued, to say the least.
So we learned about the case at hand and decided we wanted to do our part to help Purrrlock Holmes stop Furriarity from terrorizing London. So we knew we had to try Purrrlock Holmes, Furriarity's Trail. In Purrrlock Holmes' Furriarity's Trail, 2 to 5 players are newly inducted inspectors at Scotland Pound. Their goal is to bust members of Furriarity's gang to help Purrrlock get closer to the Furriarity that's been bullying all of Baker Street.
Players will each have a suspect card hidden to themselves only, and their goal is to deduce the identity and hour of the crime on their card based on clues the other players give.
When a player guesses correctly, they get points. But each round, Furriarity gets closer to escaping, so everyone needs to work together to stop him before he does.
Though the game is cooperative, the player with the most points at the end of the game wins. Are you confused yet? Let's head over to the table to look at how it plays out in more detail. In Purrrlock Holmes, you're trying to deduce the identity and the hour of your secret card in front of you. Again, you place it in front of you with the back to you so that you don't know what's on it. You will be playing cards down with similar aspects to them. For example, we have dog here, so dog is at 6 o'clock, toad at 7, rat at 11, crow at 10, goose at 7. So those are all the different suspects in the game. The numbers on the cards go 1 through 12, so just like on the clock that you have down there in front of you. You will select on your turn 2 cards to put down. So say I put down dog at 6 o'clock. Everybody else that's playing, so in this case it's one other person, is going to tell me if I have any of that information correct. Now they're going to be very vague about it. If either of the pieces of evidence are correct, so if the character's right, or if the hour is right, or if the hour is either one above or one below the actual hour of my card, they will tell me that I have a lead. If it's a lead, I'll put it over here on this side. If it's a dead end, I'll put it over here on this side. So for example, if this player across the table from me had laid down this card, I would say lead because it matches the suspect on their card. If they played down rat at 11 o'clock, I would also say lead because 11 o'clock is one below 12. So throughout the game, you're going to be laying down different cards, and based on what your teammates / opponents tell you, you'll develop different pieces of knowledge about your character in order to make the deduction of who it is. Once you think you know on your turn, you can guess. So if I were the other player and I would use the evidence that was given to me and I'd say, I think my card is toad at 12 o'clock, they say, yes, you're right. Because I got 2 pieces of information correct, I would take the first 2 tokens. Each time you guess a piece of information correct, you grab a token. The tokens have points on them that you're going to add together at the end of the game. If through your guessing you're able to catch up with Furriarity, you grab the token and the game's over. However, after each round, Furriarity moves 1 token over and you flip it over like that. And so for every round that you cannot catch Furriarity, he's going to move closer and closer to the end until eventually he escapes. And the game is over when he moves off the trail. I've referred to these clocks. You'll see that there is a clock, 1 through 12, and it's a great visual aid to help you kind of picture what's next to a 4. I know, obviously, you probably know that, but it's really good to visualize it, and then it also has the number of suspects on it. On the back, you can actually say pause at any point of the game and use 1 free guess action. You will lose a point at the end of the game, and you can only do it once, but it can come in handy if you're really trying to beat your opponents to catch Furriarity. There are enough components in the game for 5 players, so there are 5 of these tiles. There are 5 standees, and then this guy over here is the first player token, so every time you get to the first player token, that reminds you to move Furriarity further down the trail. If you don't catch Furriarity and he escapes, the player with the lowest score will be awarded Scotland Pound Litter Box Inspector. But if you do catch Furriarity, you'll flip this over and you will be awarded, and whoever has the most points will be named Scotland Pound Chief Inspector. So hopefully that clears some things up for you. You've got a better feel for how the game works. It's really not a difficult to grasp game. It's just, putting it into words sometimes can be a little bit difficult. But I digress. So we mentioned in the beginning, it's not something we would think would be paired together, right? Why cats?
Yeah, why are they cats?
So, Purrrlock, that's funny.
It's not anything I would seek out.
Right.
And it makes me think kind of like kiddish, the children's version of, I don't know, like Beyond Baker Street.
Well, hold that thought, because we can get into that in a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But let's first talk about... Yeah, you are. So the concept, really when you think about it, is pretty cute.
Yeah. Well,
right.
because it's not all cats.
Right. There are.
The suspects are 5 different animals as well.
Purrrlock Holmes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I was afraid he was going to bring that out for the review. Okay.
I think you said it's not something that you would seek out, but I think for others, it's like, oh, it definitely catches your eye. Purrrlock, what? Cat? Sherlock? So I think
I don't look at them.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a theme that draws. And on top of that, of course, is a beautiful game. The artwork on...
They did a good job.
They really did.
It looks so nice.
So I do like the way that the game looks. Now, if we're still talking about components and the way the game works, for those standees that your suspect cards go in, I do wish those were a little bit heavier because if, a slight... if you go or something like that, depending on what surface you're playing on, they could tip over accidentally, and you'd have to start over. And I accidentally tipped one over in one of our gameplays, and accidentally tipped someone else's over.
And when that happens, you take a penalty.
Yeah. And so I do wish they were either had wider bases or had a little bit of a weight to them, too.
Well, we may just have to find our own standees. Yeah. At the same time, though, what I did, I was nervous about that very first play, but I ended up being relieved of, because, we have some games that when you put the thing into the standee, the bottom of it's ruined.
Yeah.
Like, it rips it. It fit too tight. And these go in just fine so that it doesn't hurt the card.
Right.
Because these cards do get mixed up again and used in later plays, and then you'd start seeing those, and you might know... This particular card is the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that's no fun.
Nope. So we did mention that it's a lighter game. So it's light deduction. So that you are having to make some assumptions and that. Okay, we're not even going to get into that.
I can make just some wild guesses.
This is Karnak over here.
Wild guesses. No. I go into my mind palace.
Okay, so we're going to move on.
I've been able, with just 3 animals eliminated from my suspects and maybe half of the clock eliminated, I've been able to just go, I think it's the toad at 8 o'clock.
She nails it.
Goes,
I swear she's cheating. I'm looking at the reflection. But anyway.
What?
Okay. I'll give it to you.
I'm just that good.
So it is light deduction, but I think it kind of scratches the itch of if you want to play a game of that style and not get into a longer, deeper, more time-consuming game.
I definitely think it falls into the realm of filler.
Oh yeah,
it's a filler deduction.
Totally.
Which is really cool.
In fact, when we first played it for the review, we played 3 games back to back to back because we wanted to dive back in and just see what happens. So definitely, it's one you can play back to back, and it is quick enough to play between games. So yeah, it's a great filler game, and as you mentioned, as you were getting there at the beginning, it is a good family game. Very good family game. The age range is 10 and up. I think, you could even go down to 8, I think.
Yeah, I think that's definitely doable.
Yeah. Because of the theme, because of the artwork style, it's cats, it's animals. And it'd be great to introduce kids to a deduction style game.
Yeah, start getting them in that mindset, and especially since it's just 2 things that they're having to deduce.
Well, yeah, and the crimes, it's not like... So the description of the game is like these guys are being bullies, right? They're not killing anybody or shooting or stealing. It's very family friendly. So I would definitely recommend it as a family game, wouldn't you?
Right. There are a couple of things that I will say in gameplay that were a little confusing as far as like when to draw cards and when not to draw cards.
Definitely could benefit maybe from like a player aid.
Yes. Well, you already have a bit of a player aid there. You've got your clock face and you've got your animals. Could we maybe just get like what you can do on a turn listed on there, and maybe that's all?
Yeah.
That's all I would need is just that extra little bit added on there. But all in all, I feel like I could almost say it's like a lighter version of Beyond Baker Street for
I could see that.
games.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, Sherlock Holmes. You can't look at your cards.
Right.
So that's something else is you have to be very conscious when you're drawing a new suspect. Do not look at that card.
Yep.
Because again, like we've already said, you could take a penalty.
Yeah.
So lots of interesting things going on here that are fresh, and I like that.
Totally, and I don't think it changes very much based on player count.
Right, yeah, we've played several different numbers, and pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do enjoy that it's cooperative, but it's semi-cooperative, because you're working together to stop Furriarity.
Right, you want the other player to get some tokens to try to take them off that trail so you can get closer to Furriarity. And
so there's a good balance there of, if I guess both of them now, that puts the next player closer to grabbing that token, that Furriarity token.
Right, and since you are turning some of those tokens face up, I mean, there's only so much you can do as far as planning. It's like, okay, that person's can get these tokens, and that person might get those. Like, you can't plan out too much for that, but you can have an idea of what's happening as far as who has what points.
Yeah. So, in summary, I'd say that for this game, it's perfect for families and players who want to play a deduction game in a short time frame.
Purrrlock Holmes has a lot going for it. The unique spin on the source material is eye-catching enough to draw people in, but the light and fun semi-cooperative deductive reasoning is what keeps players coming back for more.
And it's definitely not a brain burner. It's essentially just process of elimination of numbers and characters, but it scratches the itch to play a game of deduction.
For all those reasons, we give Purrrlock Holmes, Furriarity's Trail, a 7 and a seal of approval.
We're going to box this one up for now. Check out our website, marriedwithbg.com, for more reviews, blogs, and our podcast.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.